Welcome back to Exposure Stories. Mike Markham's story begins not with fame or recognition, but with quiet curiosity in a small Missouri town. As a child, he was different from the others around him. While most kids spent their time outdoors, chasing games and laughter, Mike wandered through scrapyards and abandoned lots, collecting broken electronics and discarded wires. To him, these weren't useless scraps. They were pieces of a puzzle he was determined to understand. His bedroom became a chaotic workshop, filled with tangled cables, buzzing circuits, and the faint smell of scorched metal. Without formal training or guidance, he taught himself how electricity behaved, experimenting endlessly. Neighbors found him odd, sometimes even unsettling, as he rigged together strange contraptions powered by car batteries or stretched wires across fences to light small bulbs. But Mike didn't care about their opinions. He was chasing something deeper, an invisible force he believed could be controlled, shaped, and perhaps even mastered. As he grew older, that childhood fascination evolved into something far more intense. By his early 20s, Mike wasn't just experimenting for fun anymore, he was searching for a breakthrough. In a friend's shed, he built one of his earliest serious devices, a Jacob's ladder. Two thin metal rods stood upright in a V-shape, mounted on a wooden base. When powered, arcs of blue electricity danced between them, climbing upward like miniature lightning. The air filled with a sharp ozone scent, and the hum of energy gave the space an almost otherworldly feeling. Mike discovered that placing a cheap laser between the rods helped stabilize the electrical arcs, making them more consistent. Using salvaged transformers from old appliances, he pushed the machine further. It looked crude, assembled from scraps and held together by instinct rather than precision, but to Mike, it felt alive, as though he was brushing against something extraordinary. Then came the moment that would change everything. In January 1995, Mike dropped a small steel screw between the glowing rods. In an instant, it vanished. Not burned, not thrown aside, simply gone. A second later, it reappeared nearby, as if it had slipped through a gap no one could see. His heart raced. This wasn't just electricity anymore. It felt impossible, unreal. Driven by excitement, Mike called into a late-night radio show to describe what he had witnessed. He spoke of the arcs, the laser, and the screw that seemed to disappear and return. Listeners were captivated. Soon, letters began pouring in. Some warned him to stop, fearing he was tampering with forces beyond understanding. Others encouraged him, convinced he had stumbled onto something revolutionary. The attention only fueled his obsession. Determined to prove his discovery, Mike pushed further. In one reckless attempt, he took several large transformers from a local power yard to amplify his machine. The surge of electricity was too much. Parts of rural Missouri lost power, and authorities quickly traced the outage back to him. He was arrested and sentenced to 60 days in jail. But even behind bars, Mike couldn't let go of his idea. He spent his time sketching diagrams, refining his designs, convinced that he was on the verge of something groundbreaking. When he was released, he started again, this time more cautiously, using second-hand equipment and documenting his experiments with a camera. Support came from unexpected places, including anonymous donors who believed in his work. Yet with every step forward, his world grew smaller, shrinking down to the confines of his garage, where wires, light, and relentless determination consumed his life. It was during these late-night experiments that Mike began to notice something even stranger. He claimed that his machine wasn't just producing electrical arcs anymore. It was generating a kind of shimmering field above the rods. The air seemed to bend, like heat rising from pavement, and a low hum filled the room. Driven by curiosity, he tossed small objects into the field. Screws, bolts, bits of wire, all of them vanished briefly before reappearing moments later, often a short distance away. To Mike, this wasn't an illusion. He believed he had discovered a way to manipulate time itself, even if only by seconds. The idea consumed him. In that cramped garage, surrounded by flickering blue light, he convinced himself that he had done what scientists and dreamers had only imagined. He had found a way to bend reality. But the deeper he went, the more unstable everything became. By late 1996, when he returned to speak again on late-night radio, His tone had changed completely. The excitement was gone, replaced by tension and fear. He described how the machine no longer behaved predictably. The energy field pulsed violently, as if it had a life of its own. Objects didn't just disappear and return, they flickered, caught between states, as though they couldn't decide where they belonged. Even small animals exposed to the field came back disoriented and sick. Mike admitted he was close to something extraordinary, but his voice carried an edge of unease that listeners couldn't ignore. Then, suddenly he was gone. In early 1997, Mike missed a scheduled radio appearance. Calls went unanswered. Friends reported not seeing him. Then came the fire. His home was engulfed in flames, the garage destroyed. When firefighters arrived, they found melted copper hanging from the ceiling and a deep, scorched ring burned into the floor. But Mike himself was nowhere to be found. No body. No remains. Just silence. Among the debris, one piece of paper survived, bearing a chilling message written in shaky ink. It's not about time. It's about how you see things. Authorities ruled it an electrical accident, but the mystery only deepened. To many, Mike Markham had not simply died, he had vanished into his own creation. As the years passed, his story spread across early internet forums and late-night discussions. Theories multiplied. Some believed his machine had worked too well, pulling him out of existence. Others thought it had sent him backward through time. A strange case from decades earlier, a body found on a California beach with unidentifiable items, was even linked to him by some. Then, in 2006, an email surfaced, allegedly from Mike, containing technical blueprints. It was traced to a public library, but no one could confirm its authenticity. The mystery refused to fade. Then, years later, something unexpected happened. A couple who had recently purchased an old farmhouse discovered a wooden box hidden in the attic. Inside were journals, circuit boards, and a photograph of a young man standing beside a strange machine. The name on the box matched the legend, Mike Markham. Even more unsettling, the journals contained references to the very house they had just bought, details that shouldn't have existed. Shortly after, a man appeared at their door, claiming to be Mike himself. What he revealed was not a story of time travel, but something far more unsettling. He explained that his machine hadn't allowed him to move through time. Instead, it had disrupted his perception of it. His internal sense of time had fractured. He experienced gaps in memory, moments of disconnection, and a life that no longer aligned with the world around him. He hadn't traveled through time, he had become lost from it. Each experiment had eroded his memory further, slowly disconnecting him from the people and life he once knew. The machine hadn't conquered time. It had unraveled him. In the end, Mike walked away from it all. He refused to rebuild the device, choosing instead to live quietly, carrying the weight of what he had discovered. Years later, news of his death spread, marking the end of a story that had fascinated and haunted so many. Some saw him as a visionary, others as a cautionary tale. But perhaps the truth lies somewhere in between. A man who chased the impossible, only to discover that time isn't something to control, but something that quietly shapes and erases us all.